Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. We're going to talk about Stranger Things 4. Spoiler warning for Stranger Things. Also, I have a unique view about Stranger Things. There's a linked video below that can kind of give you a little bit more full context, a playlist that give you more full context about what I think about Stranger Things and the relationship in its relationship with Dungeons & Dragons. It's a little bit unique. It gives a little more context for this video, but you don't have to watch that to understand this. Let's go. All right. So Stranger Things 4 specifically it explores, it celebrates, it expands Dungeons and Dragons. Quite literally expands Dungeons and Dragons canon. Oh, you're like, wait, Scott, where does Dungeons and Dragons expand Dungeons and Dragons canon? It's already happened once that I can very clearly show you. What's a Demogorgon look like? I see. So you're showing me the picture of the monster manual? Well, wait a second. In the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition Red Box starter set, the Dungeons and Dragons Stranger Things Red Box starter set, there's a miniature of the Demogorgon in that box, which has the fat red ampersand, the D&D ampersand, every official cue of an official Dungeons and Dragons product, which in my opinion usually means canon. It certainly means canon in this situation, showing a Demogorgon that doesn't look anything like the Monster Manual. So by D&D Canon 5th edition, right now, the Demogorgon has two forms, not one. Unlike any other creature that in the game. There you go, right? That's just one. I could give you like 6, right? Stranger Things actually expands Dungeons and Dragons canon. It's really not like any other show in the world, right? Because Stranger Things it's really incredible. Okay. Let's stay on target here. So what I want to talk about today is Stranger Things does an incredible exploration of the relationship between Dungeons and Dragons and friendship. Dungeons and Dragons has an odd relationship to friendship. Very, very unique relationship with friendship, okay? People who don't pay attention and don't think deeply think that Dungeons and Dragons is always played with friends. This is definitely not the case. It really isn't the case at all. There's also an argument on whether Dungeons & Dragons should be played with friends, right? So, Dungeons & Dragons is generally played with friends. Is professional basketball played with friends? No, not at all. Like, they're like, hey, my buddy's really good at basketball. They get the best players they can get, and they play, right? Like, and that can happen with Dungeons & Dragons, but that's a deeper conversation. I'll leave that off here, but I just want you to be aware. We play Dungeons & Dragons with friends, but people who tell you that's the point and that's the only thing it should happen, very shallow view, very small thinking about Dungeons & Dragons. And that's okay. There's a lot of people, a lot of D&D commentators, frankly, that are still maturing their thought process on Dungeons & Dragons. You can't sleep on Dungeons & Dragons. Like, you can't say things that are obvious, because the reality is Dungeons & Dragons is so complicated and so nested in culture and art and passion and math that it doesn't really exist like any other element of Americana, right? So let's talk, but D&D and friendship is a real part of it, a very significantly large part of it, all right? And so I want to just kind of talk that through a bit, right? And just see where this lands, right? So let's get into this. All right, so where do we, when we think about this, where does this bounce out, right? D&D and friendship. Well, D&D Stranger Things 4 specifically talks about 4 distinct types of Dungeons and Dragons friends, in my humble opinion. Here's the 4. Are orthogonal, diagonal, okay, accelerators, and forsakers, okay? Those are the 4 types of Dungeons and Dragons friends you will find. All right, now I'm just going to, everything I'm going to talk about, you have already experienced if you're a dungeon master. You already have seen every single one of these types, right? Okay, especially if you listen to this channel, unless you're completely new to the channel. But if you listen to this channel for even 10 videos, the odds of you've seen every single one of these. So I'm going to explain them in the Stranger Things 4 character sets, in the characters, but you've seen these at the table. All right, so let's bounce into it. All right, okay. Let's talk about orthogonals, okay? Orthogonal D&D friends are, so I'm gonna talk about the core 4, right? They actually call them the party, right, in seasons 1, 2, and 3. And I think they're still referred to as the party even in season 4 by the Stranger Things community and the D&D community. But the party is Whale DM, Will, Lucas, Dustin, and Mike, okay? So Mike is Elle's boyfriend, Jane's boyfriend. By the way, I don't know what to appropriately call Elle, right? Is her name Jane or is her name Elle, right? Is Elle her dead name? If you have any idea, like if you have any knowledge about how to refer to people and how we would actually know what is her real name, like should we be calling her Jane now? It seems very unnatural and weird, but it also seems like it might be insulting to continue to call her Elle. So I'd love your opinion on that in the comments below, especially if you know anything about dead names, because I'm wondering if this is a dead name situation. I think it is. I think Elle is Jane's dead name, okay? I think she specifically got upset with Mike when he called her Elle, and she wanted to be called Jane, because I think she's trying to recraft herself as a human rather than a remote assassin, right? Like, remember, I did say spoilers. We're like, okay. All right, so this is really, this is an incredible show. All right, so Jane, I'm going to say Elle, because nobody's going to know what I'm talking about if I say Jane. All right, so Elle, basically, she's trying to recraft herself, right? So, all right, so Mike is Elle's girlfriend, okay? Mike is Elle's boyfriend. All right, and even that seems up in the air now, but anyway, I'm going to keep going here, sorry. Mike and Dustin are in the Hellfire Club together, and they've played D&D for years, and they have never left the game. They have grown in dedication to the game for a long time, and they are fully into the game in Season 4, okay? They are orthogonal, right? Orthogonal means 90 degrees up, 90 degrees to right or left, 90 degrees down, right? If you're a board gamer, you know the term orthogonal. If you're a serious board gamer, you know the term orthogonal, right? It means you can just move, 90 degrees up, 90 degrees to right, 90 degrees to left, 90 degrees behind, right? Like a cross, okay? It's a traditional, like, hey, you're my D&D friend. It's like, we've played D&D for a long time. We both love D&D. We're D&D friends. We're friends, and we play D&D together, and we are both on the same level of attention to the game, dedication to the game, all those kind of things, okay? Diagonal. Let's talk about diagonal, okay? In Season 4, Erica joins the Hellfire Club. She becomes a Hellfire Club player, okay? She is diagonal, right? She gets added to the game when Lucas is not able to make the game. And Eddie Munson, the dungeon master, pushes back and actually does a little gatekeeping before he lets her in, right? Does a little bit of temporary gatekeeping, like 5 minutes of gatekeeping before he lets her in, right? Lets her through the gate, right? Because she has to prove herself, right? And so she is diagonal. And frankly, Erica is not Dustin's friend, and Erica is not Mike's friend. But after one game, you could say they're friends. Their friendship is shallow and it's new, but they are friends. They have a shared moment, right? And what Murray says, shared trauma, right? Because Erica has witnessed Mike and Dustin's deaths, right, at the table, right? Like, Dungeons & Dragons does incredibly strange things. It gives people shared trauma in 2 hours, right? It's incredible, right? Like, it's really, really incredible, right? So Erica is a diagonal friend. Okay, let's talk about the Accelerator friend. The Accelerator is Eddie Munson. Eddie comes in from external. Accelerators don't have to be external. That's just one attribute of Eddie's relationship. But Eddie is friends with Dustin and Mike, okay? And Eddie is an accelerator. He accelerates Dustin's and Mike's passion for Dungeons & Dragons significantly, right? This is incredible. I just met an accelerator for my board game hobby. I love board games. I own between 40 and 50 board games, and they didn't become a problem, right? Like, I realized I owned like 5 board games I hadn't even played, right? Like, and I was like, I can't buy any more board games right now because I own 5 board games I've never cracked the seal on, So you're like, you got a problem here. Then, I kid you not, this new person came to our church, And we've been inviting this person over after lunch for church, and this person, like, way deeper down the rabbit hole than us. They're like, "Have you ever seen Summoner Wars?" And I'm like, "Yes, of course I've seen Summoner Wars, played Summoner Wars, right? Like, why?" And they're like, "Here's my copy of Summoner Wars with every single Summoner Wars second edition with every single expansion, and it is all sleeved with official Summoner Wars sleeves. You ready to play?" Yes. All right, this person comes over, and we have blasted through literally dozens of games, right? Like, and so he's an accelerator for my board. Like, this dude is deeper down the rabbit hole than me, right? And Eddie and frankly, Mike and Dustin had been very dedicated players for a long time, and Eddie Muntz is like, "Let's go deeper down the hole, right? Like, get your shovel, we're going, right?" And I love that. Like, here's where you know you got a friend. Where's the shovel? Let's go, right? Like, and it's for a whole lot of different reasons, right? Like, that's when you know you got a friend, right? Yeah, there you go. All right. So basic for digging holes. There you go. If you're smart, you're following. All right. So it's really fascinating, right? So Eddie is an accelerator. He's an accelerator friend. Let's talk about the Forsaker friend. Yeah, you know him, right? They used to like D&D, but now they're cool. The person who has forsaken Dungeons & Dragons. Lucas Sinclair forsook Dungeons & Dragons. Left his friends high and dry for a varsity jacket? Please. Right? Like, get your priorities straight. Good Lord. Right? Yeah. And honestly, that's one thing I loved about Stranger Things 4 is there was a question. Who was right? Was it the Hellfire Club who dedicated themselves to a Dungeons & Dragons game? Or was it the jocks who ended up, Lucas Sinclair had to actually make sure that they didn't murder his friends? There you go. There's your answer, right? Like, yeah, nerds over jocks, done. Right? And of course, that's only 1986. None of those cliques even exist now. It's all merged, and so it's different. But Lucas Sinclair is the Forsaker, and that is another type of D&D friend. It's your friend who has forsaken Dungeons & Dragons. And that puts things in a weird space. A very weird space, right? Are you still friends with them? Is your friendship lessened? It's a great question, right? 4 types of Dungeons & Dragons friend. Orthogonals, diagonals, accelerators, and forsakers. Did I miss one? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Also, I can do it, right? I can name somebody in my own IRL for every single one of those brackets. I can name 3 deep in some of those categories. Can you map people in your own life to every single one of those categories? I'm betting if you listen to this channel, you can. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.